All right, welcome to another video in this series where we're sharing ideas in support of distance learning. And this one's going to be different from the other ones in a way that I'm really excited to explore. And I'm really grateful that Amy and Dené have joined us for this conversation. They're part of the ESU 5 World Language Program, and so they get the opportunity to teach via DL each and every day. And so thinking back, Amy and Dené, to when you started, I'm sure there was a lot of kind of newness to this, novelty. I'm sure there was a little bit of apprehension, curiosities, all of those different things that come with doing something new, right? Regardless of what it is. And so the folks tuning in to these videos might find themselves considering this for the first time, or saying, yeah, I am in the fall going to be teaching a DL course for the first time in my professional career, and have some excitement with that, right? So what are some things that you wish that you knew that you would impart to them to kind of help them think about what it means to maybe either get ready or just sort of emotionally move into a headspace where you're like, all right, I'm ready for this as it comes, that first experience comes around potentially next semester?
Well, if I would start, I would say that my the thing I hesitated with most is maybe the relationships that I would build. I'm a very big people person. And so I was nervous about not being in the small communities because I myself live in a small community. And so I was nervous about not getting to know the students or maybe not feeling like I'm a part of them. But I would say that it is possible. It looks different. You maybe have to be more intentional with your activities, with your planning, with your time. But the relationships do come. You are with them daily. You are able to use social media, streaming websites to watch games, to watch plays. Just with the modern technology, those relationships do get built. And you do start feeling like you're part of the school and you're within the school district. So I would say relax if you're nervous about that, because the relationships will be there.
I love that. And when we all met to chat about things previously, there was someone who said that they had actually ordered a T-shirt from one of the schools they were sending to and would wear that periodically on Spirit Wear days. I love that. That's a great, like, just practical idea. Now, if you're sending to like 7 different schools, that might be, might need a budget.
Yeah. You need a budget, and you have to be careful, because if you wear one school's T-shirt more than the other, then they'll think they're your favorite school. So you have to be intentional also when you're wearing their T-shirts, so you have to switch out in between periods. So yes, but I do think that is a common, like, if they see their school T-shirt on you, they're like, wow, that teacher really does care as a part of us. So yes.
That's really fun. That's really fun. Dené, what's something that you would add to the things that you wish you knew before you got started with DL?
Yeah, I think so coming from a single district in-person teaching position to the ESU 5 World Language Program, we're currently serving this academic year 24 different public schools, and we are a team of 8 total. I guess minus our supervisor, so a teaching staff of 7. So when you divide that out, we all have multiple districts that we are teaching to, and each of those districts has their own culture within administration, their own culture within the building, their own policies when it comes to late work, their own grading schedules. And so there's a difference also with the academic calendars and bell schedules, which I know that we'll talk about another time. But I think the importance, something that I wish I'd known, was really how often I was going to be flexing or how often I was going to be needing to be flexible to these various schools. If there's a school who's missing 2 days because they were having one act during November, they are on a different schedule than my other two sections for Spanish 1, for example. And so what do I do to keep that curriculum on pace for those students? How do I match things up so that we're all ending with our Unit 4 by the end of this first semester? So this semester, or this school year, I have 5 different districts that I'm teaching to, which is a lot across 6 different periods. And so it just requires a lot of planning. And like Amy said, I want to use the same word of intentionality and thinking ahead about how I can still become part of the community and bring up, hey, I saw that you won at one act, right? How did it go? And keeping in communication with the students and with our proctors. So the proctors are something that really make it happen. So I also wish that I knew how closely I was going to be working with a proctor, which is another adult who is physically in person in the room. And it's not exactly a co-teaching situation, but we rely upon the proctors to help address classroom management. They make sure that if we send papers that need to be printed, that happens. They're communicating to us. We're communicating to them about things like snow days or grading periods. So knowing that I was going to also be having those relationships, I just think it's helpful to know some of those smaller details going into this.
Gosh, I can totally see how that might be the case. I won't spend forever on this, but my first teaching assignment was on block schedule with 90-minute class periods, and then I went to an entirely different state to 45-minute class periods. And the switch in culture and state and standards and time frame, just I felt like I was a first year teacher again the first year. But I never grew more, I don't think, in a year in my profession or in the profession as I did during that time. And so I was really grateful to have navigated that, because you do learn when the context shifts. And so I can't imagine how much you all have learned, and we've heard it over the course of the recording of this series of videos, how much it stretches you to be in 5 different cultures as you're talking about, or 6 or different ones as the calendars rolls over. So that's a really cool insight. I really appreciate learning about that. What are some other things maybe that you wish you knew before you got started?
I want to say really quick, the difference in the physicality of the job. So when you're an in-person teacher, you are constantly walking around the room. You're using proximity control as a classroom management. At least that's what I used when I was teaching at OPS. So, I would regularly come home and my pedometer would be like, you got 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 miles in, just doing all the business of kind of running around. And physically, we are either in Beatrice at ESU 5, or some of us are in La Vista, ESU 3. And we each have a dedicated professional classroom studio where we are teaching from that has a professional camera. We have multiple screens so we can see our students. We can see what we're projecting. We can do screen monitoring. And then we have our work laptop, which is a lot. But we're essentially in an office setting for the majority of the day, which for me was a really big difference from, like Amy said, being a people person to being in the box on the screen. There's a little bit of like a disconnection about it, but I think that when we're intentional about the time that we are with the students online, and also using our plan time wisely to make sure we're keeping things on track and on pace, I've had to add more physical movement for my health into my normal routine, because I'm not making my way around my classroom or the school building on a daily basis to the tune of 4 miles. But that's just been a personal adjustment. And, I think it's important, though, to recognize it. I also recently bought myself anti-blue light glasses. So I wear those now. I got them at the end of October, and they've helped. They've helped a lot just because of the screen time. And my students think that I look really cool with them. So I'm cool with it.
Oh, that's good.
Fun. Amy, what's something you might impart?
Well, I would also say just the onboarding of your technology, like just being prepared. So just knowing how to use the different, like we currently use Zoom. We have the different DL systems within the classrooms. So I think just being prepared and maybe doing a couple practice runs of teaching to make sure your system is hooked up correctly, make sure that you're able to troubleshoot when something's not working, just being, I'd say at the first quarter, first semester, I was a little iffy on things, and I would constantly call out for the tech department or to Dr. Z to help me figure out things. But I think as you go and you become more comfortable, you're able to troubleshoot a lot on your own, and just be prepared to use the different technology tools that Zoom offers or that our LMS systems offer.
Mm-hmm. My pro tip hint for that would be identifying a student within each of your sections who is sort of the tech expert, like somebody who is there on a regular basis, because you want somebody who has pretty good attendance if you're going to ask them to be a support. For example, last year at one of my schools, it was a girl who was a senior who also she had a period that was, she was an administrative assistant, and she actually helped assist the tech person in the building, but she happened to be in my Spanish 2 class. And so it was wonderful because anytime that there was an issue, she was just like, she'd hop up out of her seat and she'd double check and be like, is it the mic? Is it the camera? Like, what's going on? How do we need to do our split screen? So identifying that early, and I've done this now explicitly and intentionally and have asked who hears the best with computers. Okay, you're going to be the one who's helping, this proctor in Davenport. You're my second best when it comes to tech. Because some of these small schools, they share a tech person, a tech administrator. So for example, at one of my schools, Mr. Vernon is only there a couple of days a week, and then he's at the other one a couple of days a week. So he might not even be in the building or be able to address what we're dealing with that rapidly. Like, we would have to wait 24 or 48 hours for assistance. So it's helpful to build in some, proactive things that you can troubleshoot with before all of a sudden, oh, we can't connect for class.
I think this is a really good point to bring up, because I want to make as many connections as I can with the in-person classroom. But when I taught in 90-minute block, you had a lot of transitions, and so you had to be very intentional with, I'm going to have a bell to signal this. I'm going to have this sort of activity. I'm going to be passing out, and that thought of how do you do that almost seamlessly, because you lose engagement, you lose student commitment to the process when those transitions can take a while, and when you're toggling between one screen or another program, or I can see that the need to do that pretty fluidly, obviously then sort of elevates. And so I love that suggestion, Amy, of like practicing that, Dené, of having a student on the receiving site, being that tech support that be kind of on demand for you, that I could see being really helpful. There was comments earlier too about, hey, ask a proctor to keep a student after. And if you think that there is a student that has an aptitude, maybe that's the place to say, hey, proctor, can you tap this student to stay around for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, to ask them if they could be in that role, and then the need for that. And if you find yourself going, okay, so what does that mean then? Like, what tips, tricks could I acquire to do that well? We have videos in this series for some of that. So check out some of the others. This is what I want to bring up too, as I transition this maybe to a close then, because the ESU 5 World Languages Department has been so gracious to support us across this entire series with all these great ideas and insights that they have had the opportunity to learn from experience, as you've heard over the course of this video. And so strongly encourage everyone to just go learn more about the program that they have, and also just think broadly about our ESUs, and that we try to meet whatever needs are out there in support of education in a myriad of different contexts and ways. So be sure to check out ESU 5 and all of our ESUs. Reach out if you need any support. Amy, today, thank you for your input, and would certainly invite others to check out more videos in this series because there's just a lot of great stuff to share. So thanks, and we'll look forward to connecting with you in those other episodes.